Today we're going to be replacing this door. It's a fine old door, right? Nothing wrong with a little rod at the bottom. What's wrong with that? The problem is you can't unlock it from the inside, and if you park in the garage, then you have to still walk around to get out of the garage and then unlock the master lock and enter in this way. So we're going to make this a whole lot user friendly and make it unlock from the inside as well as from the outside. Let's get started. Hi everybody, I'm Jim Dierdorf and this is Detroit DIY. First thing we need to do is get this trim off right here. This opening is a little too wide for the brick mold on our door. However, I have a little solution for that. And it'll look just fine when it's all done. Let's get this stuff off of here. Alright, I am going to keep going on this, and then we'll get this old frame out of here. Now that I've got this trim off, I want to go ahead and get this door off of this frame. This is a homemade frame. It's just 2x4s with some door stop and whatnot nailed on here. So I'm just going to go ahead and, there's only 2 hinges here. I'm just going to go ahead and pull the screws out of the hinges off of the frame and get this door off of here. They're actually brass screws. Alright, with that last screw out, we are ready to go. Get this thing set off to the side. I've got some screws in here that I need to get out. This was broken at one point in time, and I put some screws in and some glue just to kind of get it through till now. So I need to go ahead and get these screws out, then we can start prying this right off of here. I'm just going to take advantage of this gap right here and just start opening it up, just like that. There we go. Oh, there's a screw down there, but it's not holding very well. Alright. Hopefully a good tug. There it is. The top up here is not attached at all, so that should allow me some extra flexibility in getting this out easier. Get this one off. We'll be downtown. I see a little gap in here. rubber nails here. Alright, with that out of the way, we are ready to just double check some measurements and make sure our rough opening is adequate. I'm pretty sure it is. And then we can slide the new door in. This is going to be the hinge side, so the most important side to me to be plumb. And you know, my initial check is it is not. It is leaning in at the top by about 1/4 of an inch. Not horrible. We have enough room here with our measurements to be able to get that nice and plumb. However, this side is nice and plumb, so we should be okay as far as that's concerned. So I'm going to get that door out here, and we're just going to set it into place, kind of see what it looks like, get it centered, and then see what my gaps are going to be here. I'm pretty sure it's going to be about 7/8 on each side, so for me to get some caulk in here, I think in a 3/4 inch piece of material on each side is going to take care of it. But let's get that door out here and make sure. With our door out here, we're ready to go ahead and get it set into place. I've pulled the 2 pin nails that hold the door shut, so it makes it a little bit more challenging to move. Not by a lot, but a little bit. The other thing is here is you want to make sure you check the bottom. Now we're just doing a test fit. This is not the permanent install. So we will be putting caulking down at the bottom. Okay, now that we've got it slid in there, we're just going to check a couple things as far as square. It feels kind of tight at the bottom. I'm going to go on the other side, have a look real quick. We'll be right back. The door frame is in here, and it is plumb up this hinge side for right now. Now here's my problem, and I knew this going in, is that I would have this gap from the siding all the way around the door opening. What I didn't realize is that it would be this out of square. So it's going to be, you know, something that bothers me forever probably. So I need to figure out a way that I can make this look a little more square than it actually is. And I could go down here to the bottom and try and find a way, it'd actually be on this side, to be able to scoot it over a little bit at the bottom that way, and then I could kind of pick that bottom side up some and get it back plumb. Even though the cement down there and the tread down there all seems to be pretty square, I think that is one way we could resolve this problem. So I'm going to play with this for a few minutes and see if I cannot get this to sit in there a little bit better than what it is with a little manipulation. Sorry for the leaf blower, my neighbor is out taking care of some leaves. So here's what I've decided to do. I've cut these strips, one for each side. I am going to install the door a little bit off plumb. It's the only choice I have to get anything that looks somewhat aesthetic on the outside. So currently I am going to pull this door back out, and I'm going to attach this strip to the brick mold, but not that one yet. And then I'm going to get a couple of temporary screws in here just to kind of see where we're at, because it feels like the bottom's hanging up a little bit. I've got a couple of shims down there holding the bottom up. I don't know if we can see them or not, but they're right there under the thresh, and that should hold me true to the opening, but that is not going to make the door plumb. However, it will be square to the structure. So I'm going to pull it back out and get that strip attached to the brick mold with probably 4 or 5 screws. I've got my brick mold extension installed on this side, and of course there's, I don't know, 7 or 8 screws, not just 4 or 5. It looks pretty good. I've got it nice and flush, so when all this gets primered, which I might primer this before I put it in just for ease, but right now I am going to set it back into the opening, get a couple of screws in the hinge side over here, one at the top, one center or bottom or whatever, just to hold it in place so I can figure out the rest of it, because that strip is very tight going in. So let's see what we got here. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and countersink a hole right up here and get a screw in to hold it. Got everything figured out, and I'm going to go ahead now and pull the door out. This will probably be the final time. So before I pull it out, I want to make sure I'm tight in at the bottom, and I'm going to mark the cement down there so I know where to put my caulk before I set the door back in for the final time. Now I've already marked the floor on the inside a little while ago, so we are good to go. I'm going to go ahead and get my 2 screws out, pull this thing out of here, get this strip attached. It's very tight at the top, but I think with some manipulating I can get it in there, so it shouldn't be too big of a deal to get it to go in there. I have good alignment up here at the top. I'm going to go ahead and get my first screw in. I'm using 1.5" exterior construction screws to do this. Now I'll just work my way down, keep it flush, clamp it as I go, and put some more screws in. Alright, well, my battery died. This cold weather is being so tough on my batteries today. I got one screw in the frame right here. Let's take a look. I had to shim it up here, so there's 3 shims in there, and I will get another screw inside here through those shims. Now I'm gonna head down by the doorknob area here, and I'm going to get a couple screws in down here. It's kind of dark in here. The lighting's not the best, but we have a little gap there. So I'm going to go above and below the deadbolt and the door latch and get a couple screws in here, and then the same thing at the bottom. Then I'll come back around and get these some more. So I'm going to go ahead and get this tidied up so that I can get the doorknobs in and call this a day, because it's cold out here. Now I've only got a couple of shims back here, but we've got everything we need. Before I put this in, I want to just close the door and make sure that we are good top to bottom. I'm liking that right there. Let's have another look. I like that my reveal on my weather stripping is the same top to bottom, so we are good. I'm going to go ahead and get another screw here. Then it's 2 more times the same thing, some shims and some screws, and then we'll come back and get the hinge side tidied up. Okay guys, on this side of the door I want to get a screw about right here, and I want to get one about right here, and then the same thing on the outside, and then somewhere on the door, typically when you buy it, you're going to find a couple of screws stapled to the door. Those are intended for you to remove one hinge screw from the top and bottom hinge and replace it with a much longer screw that's going to go into the stud. So we'll be doing that also. So we're going to get these in right here, but we need to get some shims in because we're a little bit away from the stud. I've got my shims in right here. I'm just going to kind of reach my hand in to keep them from spinning when the drill bit hits them. Well, I can't do that. They stayed there. The screw's going to spin them though. Go ahead and get my screw started here as well, just to stop that shim from spinning. See what we got. Alright, very nice. Now the same thing down here, then we'll get the screws in the hinges and then we'll take a look inside. So what I'm going to do is just pull out this screw that's closest to the framing near the top. And as you'll see, they're just little short 3/4 inch screws. And this is the screw they gave us with the door to replace that one. And that will go right into the framing. And just tighten this door up nice. I'm going to do this bottom one, and then the door install is going to be finished. We'll take a look inside. Unfortunately, the lighting in here is just not the best, but you can see that set of shims there and the gap we were taking care of, and the same thing here and the gap, and then here, and then one shim down there. You can see we have good reveals on the door, along the side, along the top, and along the hinge side. And over here we needed much less for shims because we had very little gap, and the only reason we had any gap is because those 2x4s there are a little bit out. So we have good opening and closing, and we have good alignment all the way around. So I'm going to go ahead and at least get the doorknob stuck in this for the night, maybe the deadlock after, or the deadbolt after I warm up a little bit, and then we'll take a look at the opening and closing operation. Alright guys, I got the doorknob on. I did not get the deadbolt in yet. I will do that tomorrow. Maybe there'll be a little sun shining on me. It's supposed to be just a couple degrees warmer tomorrow, but the door is opening and closing just fine, even though it is not completely plumb. We will talk about that in a few minutes when I get warm. Alright, we're in here where it's warm now. So if you run into the situation I did, where it was going to be butt ugly if I plumbed that door and then tried to hack something in there to make it look good. So I had to make the choice to put the door in where it's not plumb. The problem with that is the door is not going to stay like in a half open position because it's not plumb. So what it's going to do is it's either going to kind of go closed on its own or go open on its own. Mine out there, what it's doing is going open on its own. It will not stay in a middle position. It will just go ahead and coast all the way open. At the end of the day, I'm okay with that. I can live with the door not staying midway open or staying where you put it versus it wanting to kind of like coast close or coast open on its own. I would rather have that than the disaster that was going to look like on the outside. So anyway, that's how I did it, and I want you to know if you run into that problem where you have to mate up with some exterior trim that's already there, or siding, or anything that is currently there that you can't really redo or make square because it wasn't square in the first place, then you just kind of have to roll with it in some situations, and that's what I did. Alright guys, that's all we got for this time. If you haven't subscribed yet, I would greatly appreciate it if you would consider doing so. If you enjoyed yourself, click on one of those 2 videos that are going to pop up next to me, and remember to always respect the power of your power tools. We'll see you soon.